Before I get into the guts of Senate Bill 48, I just thought I'd sort of refresh our memory on how we got here. On February 9th of 2018, the administration issued a directive requiring that all voting systems purchased by counties after that date had to have a voter verifiable paper ballot capability and a paper ballot recount capability. At the time, that directive didn't cause a lot of consternation because all it required was, going forward, that any new systems would have to have a piece of paper that a voter could verify, and then a ballot cast that could be recounted in the necessity of a recount. So nobody paid much attention at that time. However, on April 12th of 2018, the administration issued another directive stating that counties must select new voting systems, no matter what system they had in place, had to select new voting systems no later than December 31st, 2019, and have those systems in place for the 2020 primary election. Well, this did cause a lot of consternation to a lot of our counties, because a lot of our counties already had a paper verifiable ballot and a system that was in place, but they were being required to replace their systems no matter what. This was a unilateral decision, no consultation with the counties, no consultation with the General Assembly, just an executive order. In response to that, the Senate came up with Senate Bill 48, which they originally intended to intercede in this replacement of all the voting machines. As time went by, it became apparent that right now, today, we have, I think there's 50 some of our counties have already made decisions to move forward with new systems that are compliant. And so the train has pretty much left the station on stopping this particular decertification. But Senate Bill 48 does go forward to deal with this issue going forward should another administration choose to decertify more than 50% of the machines in Pennsylvania. But the most important thing that it does, and I think this is very important to everybody in the chamber, is that it provides funding to our counties to meet this unfunded mandate that was levied on the counties unilaterally by the administration. The bill as amended will provide 60% of the cost of replacing these machines to our counties. That's a 20% increase over what the governor put in his budget for this year. And I had personally wanted to reimburse our counties even more than that, but I'm willing to settle for what we can get here. The second thing that I believe is important that SB 48 does, going forward, should any administration choose to decertify machines, again, as I said, it allows time for the General Assembly to intervene and provides a process that has to be followed to decertify more than 50% of the voting machines, rather than that just being able to be done unilaterally by the administration. I believe this to be a reasonable check on the executive's branch unilateral power to issue blanket decertifications without having to explain its rationale or its motivations. In addition to the voting machine funding and replacement issues, SB 48 contains a few election reform issues. It updates the number of paper ballots that are required to be on hand for an election. Right now, we're requiring our counties to have 110% of the amount of ballots on hand for registered voters. Our counties know how many people come out to vote in various elections, and SB 48 allows them to make those decisions based on the past 3 type elections that's coming up. It also updates the dates and requirements for absentee ballots. Our postal system has changed, and it has made it difficult for people to request ballots on time, get them back in on time, and get them counted. SB 48 accounts for that for both absentee ballots and emergency ballots. Voters in a number of our counties have complained that there seems to be a disparity in the time that it takes for absentee ballots to get out to folks who request them. To ensure that all counties are following the prescribed absentee ballot timelines for all voters, SB 48 requires county to keep and maintain a log of absentee ballots to include the date of receipt by the county, the date the ballot was mailed to the voter, the date of the postmark on the ballot that it came back from the voter, and the date the ballot was received by the county. And this is to ensure that all absentee ballot requests and ballots get treated equally. There may be a suspicion out there that some ballots, depending on whether they may be from one party to the other, may move a little faster than another ballot, and this is make sure that all ballots are treated equally. CCAP has assured us that they have a system in place, most counties do, that already track most of this information, and it'll be little difficulty to put a system like this in place. As was mentioned by Chairman Boyle, last but not least, SB 48 does away with straight party voting in Pennsylvania. I'm sure we may hear a little pro and con on that today, but from my point of view, this is a good government issue. From the beginning of our great Commonwealth and country, we have voted for individual candidates, not for parties. And it's only been in the 20th century that we instituted straight party voting. And I can guarantee you at the time it was instituted, it was not for good government purposes. It was to allow parties to control voters and voting. And that's not what voting is about. Voting is possibly our most important right. And it's my opinion, if you don't have the time to go into your polling place and go down through your ballot individually and vote for each candidate, and you don't have the time to familiarize yourself with the candidates that are on the ballot, then maybe you shouldn't be voting in the first place. It also gives you the opportunity to go down, and if you're not familiar with the candidates that are on the ballot, that you can skip that. You can skip that particular office and go down to the ones with which you are familiar. Also, from a practical point of view, the counties tell us that the purchase and certification of election systems in Pennsylvania has been very complicated for them to do historically because of the unique requirements that Pennsylvania has with straight party voting. This means that any system that we purchase has to have special requirements built into it and has to be separately certified, which of course makes those systems cost more than those that are procured for other states. One thing that I was unaware of until we entered into this discussion is that Pennsylvania is one of only 8 states in the United States. I'll say that again. One of 8 states in the United States that has some form of straight party voting. I wonder why the other ones don't. Well, let's just think about that. I'll allow you to think about that. Finally, our boots on the ground poll workers tell us that historically, straight party voting has caused more confusion than any other issue. People check that at the top. They think because they're of one party or the other, they need to check what party they are. And then from there on down, they're not able to select. They have to ask questions. They mark their ballot. It goes to the optical scanner. It gets kicked out. So just from a practical point of view, it's difficult to enforce. It's unnecessary. It's bad policy. And it's bad government. In conclusion, I will stress the most important part of SB 48, in my opinion, is the funding that's going to go out to our counties to implement this unfunded mandate of replacing machines, about half of which, by the way, already meet the requirement, again, of having a paper trail and having a recount capability. We owe it to our counties to make sure that they're at least made partially whole for this unfunded mandate that's being foisted on them by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.